my talk. Here we go. How he said he living life as a gringo. Where you question where you fit in every time you mingle. They say you do this with not enough that. My rapping is really bad. This life as a gringo.
Man, welcome to another episode of Life as a Gringo. I am Dramos, of course. It is Thursday, so it means it's time for our Thursday Trends episode. And my guest today, man, friend of the show, an incredibly popular Tik Toker, but most importantly, an advocate and an activist, I should say, in Puerto Rico. My guy, Dean Huertas. How you feeling, bro?
Dímelo, papi. I'm hanging, bro. I'm hanging, living my best life, bro. Been doing pretty good out here, man. Thank you for bringing me on again, man. I'm very happy to be here.
Of course, bro. Of course. And I love to hear that you're doing well. I mean, obviously, there was a lot with the hurricane happening over there, you know, a lot of pieces to pick up, a lot of work to do. So obviously, we're going to dive into all of that with you, man. I want to talk about some of the projects. I know you're always working on some sort of philanthropic project over there on the island. So I want to touch base and see where you could push people to, where the most help is needed. But first, man, I want to get into some of these stories that from the last week or so that have been kind of trending. I mean, we'll obviously touch on Biden's trip to Puerto Rico. And we'll get into all that's happening over there. Obviously, there's a lot of conversation happening beyond just the hurricane, but also just in general Puerto Rico's status. So we'll talk about that. Man, you have this horrible story about two men in Texas who have been arrested after allegedly shooting two migrants. So we'll get into that story, and then man, this kind of felt appropriate given the topic of Jeffrey Dahmer and the conversation that's been happening around that on the internet. You have police investigating a suspected serial killer in California that is apparently targeting Latino men. So we'll talk about that. And then, man, on some positive news for our Mi Gente segment, we'll honor somebody who has been such a huge part of our community, somebody I know you're a gigantic fan of, and they're definitely getting their flowers. So we'll talk about that. And first and foremost, man, we'll dive into some of this heaviness, man, the BS, in a segment we call For the People in the Back.
Say it louder for the people in the back. Say it louder for the people in the back.
All right, man. So let's start in your wheelhouse in the island of Puerto Rico. Obviously, you are heavily involved in so many things going on there. First and foremost, you know, for you, boots on the ground, living there, how is it? What are the conditions like right now, a couple weeks out of this hurricane?
Man, a couple weeks out, and I'm grateful for where I'm at in my location in Isabela. The mayor has been like fighting against this whole electric company that's been privatizing the energy of Puerto Rico, and he, because of this guy, the mayor himself, he turned on the lights in certain neighborhoods. My neighborhood being one of them, and now the electric company is trying to fight him and trying to get him arrested for turning on the people's lights. It's just collisions happening on top of that. But in my region, that's like one of the bigger issues. But in the south side of Puerto Rico, we're talking Añasco, Salinas, Ponce, bro. No light. Like still like having a lot of homes trying to get out the water from the hurricane that affected their homes, bro.
Right.
I mean, I'm like safe in my house, but then when I go into these other neighborhoods in the south of Puerto Rico, and I see people that are still waiting for their water to turn back on, man.
Wow.
How are they showering? You know, like I don't know. They're having to go buy gallons or having to use like the river, like use the, you know, just whatever they can, just stay clean, you know, and having to do their dishes however they can, you know. So it's very humbling. It's very humbling in a lot of ways, you know, and I'm just trying to do my best part and give it back to the community, you know.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, man. I mean, so you had Biden come to Ponce recently here, and he basically said, you know, quote, "You deserve every bit of help this country can give you," talking about the people of Puerto Rico, saying that he's, quote, committed to this island. Biden did announce a $60 million additional funding to help shore up some of the levees and fortify Puerto Rico's flood walls, as well as create a new flood warning system for Puerto Rico's 2.6 million residents. First and foremost, thoughts. What is the general consensus on the United States' response to the island thus far in this hurricane?
Well, Biden showed up. So at least here. He made the effort.
Yep.
His visit was no longer than Bad Bunny's concert in Puerto Rico. I think, I'm not mistaken, I think Bad Bunny's concert in Puerto Rico lasted longer than Joe Biden's visit. So
right.
that's where I'm standing on with that. So
Yeah.
that's one. Two, now that he made the announcement that he's going to give federal aid to Puerto Rico, my only concern is, after we've seen what happened with Hurricane Maria and how the money went to the government of Puerto Rico, my biggest concern is it going to happen again? Where is this money going towards? How is it being used? Is it going to the right people?
Right.
That's my concern, you know?
Yeah.
And our current governor of Puerto Rico right now, he's the same party as the previous governor that Puerto Rico kicked out back in 2019. It's the same party, just different people in it. So those are my skeptical analysis.
Right.
In my perspective with that, you know, I don't know what to expect.
I love the irony of Pierluisi, who's the governor of Puerto Rico, telling Biden that they need help and that they need all these funds and these things. And it's just kind of like, but he's also being critiqued, Pierluisi himself, for not doing much for the island of Puerto Rico. It's ironic. He's telling somebody else that they need to help out the island. Yeah.
And a lot of pressures on him after Bad Bunny made it very clear he does not like Bad Bunny and El Apagón in his last album. And at the concert, when he announced it to all of Puerto Rico and whoever's watching from the outside that streamed the concert that night, he said, Pierluisi, Mamabicho. And we're just like, I was like, holy cow, he did not just say that.
Right.
I was like, that's what I'm talking about, bro.
I mean, so, you love to see. I want to interject also with this quote from Biden, because this also just shows like politicians think that we give a shit about these stupid things like this. Because Biden also said, quote, I was sort of raised in the Puerto Rican community at home politically. And they're saying, despite the fact that there are only about 2,000 Puerto Ricans living in Delaware when he was launching his career 5 decades ago. But it's so funny to me that they still think we give a shit about like these fake words, that they're just kind of like, yo, we love you guys out, but I always stand with my Puerto Ricans. Like, bro, show us the proof. That's what we care about.
You basically say, I have one cousin that's black.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm black. You know, like,
right.
Yeah, like I'm all set, bro. Like that means nothing. He said I kind of sort of grew up with. I was like, what does that mean, bro?
Right.
What are you saying? He's just, I don't know. He's like breadcrumbing. He's like looking for a cookie point. Right. I don't know what I'm getting from him. I'm like, okay, like, bro, we're still a colony. Like, do something about that. Make an impact. Like, change the status, bro. Don't even give me that stuff.
Right. And so he also lifted the Jones Act temporarily to allow those fuel ships to come over, which was another thing. It took him like 5 days, though, apparently, to get that done. I mean, people were complaining for a decent amount of time as to why he hadn't lifted that act to allow these fuel ships to come out. I mean, I want to quickly touch on TikTok, touch on comments, because I have been personally just beginning to start my TikTok journey here. I've given in. And when I have this content about Puerto Rico and the status and colonization, gentrification, you have all of these idiots fighting back against this and talking about how the colonizer thing isn't real. Puerto Rico is a self-governing country. At the same time, gentrification is a normal thing. They're helping out the economy. I mean, how are you when you see these comments that go against like everything we know to be true? How do you react to that?
I can only react so much. They make me lose my brain cells.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like they're trying to bring on that American, you know, savior complex. Like, oh, I'm doing you a favor for your community. No, you're not. You're not. You're displacing. I've had my own friends get kicked out of their homes because these, you know, outside millionaires want to buy up property and remove all the locals and like increase the rent tenfold. I'm just like, bro, like, they're not helping anybody at all. They're only helping themselves, man. Right. And one of the videos that I did that went viral on to Facebook and Instagram that I made from TikTok, Bad Bunny's girlfriend shared that, bro, because she understands. She witnessed it firsthand, bro, and because of her, that's when my page started getting a lot of heat from Ricans, non-Ricans, outside investors. I was just like, oh my God. You see, and then they're trying to defend their point of view, but like as a native living here, bro, You're not going to tell me otherwise. I'm seeing what I'm seeing. I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing. They try to pacify me. They try to silence me. I'm just like, no, you don't know it. Stop it.
Yeah. I'm glad you're giving that perspective of somebody who lives there. I'm curious too. Last thing I want to touch on when it comes to Puerto Rico is the independence movement, right? Because it feels like there is a strong push, especially from our particular generation, right? But the argument is that the independence movement on paper represents a very small sector of the population in Puerto Rico, and most people are arguing between, staying the same, the status quo, and becoming a state. So, I mean, for you, is that an accurate representation from your experience kind of the general conversation here in Puerto Rico?
I will say you don't ask for independence. You take independence.
Sure.
So a little piece of paper, there are some people who want to do it by the book, trying to do it, fair and respectfully. And then there's the others that don't believe. I'm not asking, I'm taking. And however, wherever, how they're going to do that, we'll see.
Right.
But I have seen a bigger increase in the support. At the Puerto Rican Day Parade in New York City, I've done it 3 times. And the first 2 times, I just see, flags everywhere, everybody waving the flags left and right. But I'm in the middle of Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
This year was different. When I went down Fifth Ave, I saw more of the original Celeste Puerto Rican flags and a lot more people waving them flags in the crowd. That wasn't as much back a couple years ago. And I saw many other people in the crowd saying Puerto Rico is not for sale or Puerto Rico no se vende.
Right.
And for me, that means that the conversation is being had way more than I've ever expected it. This past Puerto Rican parade that this year was one of the things that stuck out to me the most, that we're talking about it within my generation and other generations. I've seen way more of the correct, the correct flag for me being waved. And I think that being said here, there's a lot more people that have shifted their mindset because after the 2019 protests, that it has geared a different mindset into self-identity, self-respect, and what PR as a nation wants, But you have the governor, Pierluisi, asking for equality, and I'm not even going to touch that.
Right. And I think that there's also, I think people don't also understand, a lot of the previous generation has kind of been fooled into thinking they need the United States, right? So there's a lot of the colonial poison that happens that puts people in fear of thinking, things aren't great now, but they're going to be worse without the U.S., right? So they're just like, why touch anything? Let's leave it. We're surviving, right? And unfortunately, that's just not a healthy mindset for people to be able to thrive, right? Surviving, accepting the bare minimum is not what we deserve. We deserve far more than that.
I agree. We deserve 10 times more than that, man.
Yeah.
We don't accepting the bare minimum. And there are people that are just gobbling it up, taking the bare minimum in. I'm like, bro, who are you? Like, why? Like, you want the best life? Go live there. I live there. I'm from there. I left it. It's not for me, bro.
Right.
So
no, that's a fact. They also forget that if you're a state, the amount of taxes and fucking stipulations they're going to have from local governments from the U.S. They don't understand, man. They don't understand how much that paycheck hurts when they take out them taxes. They don't understand how much of a pain in the ass all these little, municipalities for permits and all this shit like that happens when you become a statehood. And I think that if a lot of people unfortunately are blind to thinking that this is just like easy money for them.
And I will use Hawaii as an example, bro. Hawaii is the most expensive state, bro.
Yeah.
And people are playing Hawaii, saying, "Oh, Hawaii needs tourism." Bro, they're a state, bro.
Right.
They are a state.
Yeah.
And they're the tourism, bro? Nah.
Right.
I'm all set.
I agree. So let's shift gears a little bit, man, because obviously outside of Puerto Rico, and our personal kind of issues that we're fighting against, many of our Latino brothers and sisters are fighting against immigration, right? And trying to get a better life for them and their family. And obviously tensions are high in places like Texas, and you have these sort of cowboys out there that think it's their job to police what's going on at the border. And sadly, they take it too far, as we're seeing here in Texas. This is in El Paso, right, where you had two brothers arrested in connection with a shooting that left one migrant dead and another hospitalized, right? And the two suspects are in custody. And one of them actually previously worked as a warden at West Texas Detention Center, who actually has worked closely with ICE. And they used to house detainees over there, right? And basically a preliminary report is claiming that the two migrants hid from the brothers as they approached them in a vehicle. The driver of the vehicle, Mike, then exited the car, leaned his weapon against the hood before firing 2 shots at the migrants, striking one of them in the stomach and then the other who died on the scene. And man, white supremacy is reigning so freely out here, and it's very scary. This is actually reminiscent of the Ahmaud Arbery murder in Georgia, where they decided to play police in their local town, and it led to this poor man being shot and killed for no reason. And this is kind of like a similar thing where you have these people who have been pre-programmed with this hate and much of it politically driven, think it's okay for them to police the, what's going on, man. It's just fucking scary. You know what I mean? It's scary to think that these guys think it's okay to do stuff like this.
Honestly, bro. Yeah, let's like. I'm gonna bring it to a lighter understanding point, but know where I'm coming from.
Sure.
You ever seen the movie Blade?
Yes.
The first one. One. Remember in the first 5 minutes of the movie, the police came, saw Blade, they said freeze, and they just started shooting him automatically.
Right.
He was like, motherfucker, you out your damn mind, bro?
Right.
That's literally what people are doing now. They just say freeze, and that's just an excuse to start shooting people, bro. I mean, there's no process. There's no reason. They're just doing as they please, bro. And it's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair, bro.
Well, and it's scary because this is like vigilante justice type shit, right? It's like that doesn't exist in this world. And if you are an American, right, who loves this country and loves the system, the police are a part of that, right? There's a reason why there's a checks and balances system. There's a reason why cops aren't supposed to just shoot people, regardless of if they are criminals or not, right? Like, you're supposed to have your day in court. Their cops have to go through certain training, be it probably not enough, but they still have to go through certain training to carry weapons, and then you have these idiots who want to play cop going out there and taking people's lives for no reason, and thinking that they're doing it in the name of law and order and fucking, America. You know what I mean? It's just scary.
Exactly. And on top of that too, bro, it's like the gun laws are strict in New York City. You got to go through hell and back just to get a certain type of gun.
Yeah.
But in Texas, you could just go to a random store and just buy it like that, bro. It's not as strict out there. And the fact that they're giving these guns to these types of people and then without any background check whatsoever, and doing so, and these people are running out in the streets doing ancestors know what, it's like, are they gonna, my only question is, if they do the damage, are they going to receive the same repercussions that our migrant brothers and sisters would have done?
We'll see what happens when they get their day in court. You hope that they're going to be held responsible for it. And last thing on that is, allegedly this guy who was working for the corrections facility had all kinds of human rights cases brought up against him for mistreating inmates and things like that. So it's like,
nice.
What do you expect from these types of people? He still somehow has a job and is able to carry a gun, even with these sort of things on his jacket. You know what I mean? It just speaks to the problem of law enforcement in this country, and also just fucking that they're just giving anybody guns in places like Texas.
Bro, and it's on top of that too. I will say it just as is, bro. Our Latinos brothers and sisters, they're labeled as Latino, but within their blood, they are native. They are native to this land. Right. And our native brothers and sisters are getting shot and killed without any reason, and it's as if we're back in the 1500s all over again. We are 2022, man. Right. And our indigenous brothers and sisters that lived here before European colonization have been going through their own difficulties, are now going through more difficulties because there's just a border now on their own land. Nobody's illegal on stolen land. Said it like that. Long live our indigenous ancestors.
That's a fact. Very well said. So, last of the heavy news I want to touch on, and this is about a suspected serial killer in Stockton, California. Yeah. And police are investigating someone. They have a picture of the back of this person's head. They're being known as a person of interest. But thus far, the killer has murdered 5 people, including 4 Latino men. And none of them were robbed, and police do not believe the killings were related to any drug or gang activity. They are confirming they believe that this is a serial killer on the loose there in California, targeting Latin men. And this is an interesting time for the idea of a serial killer, right? Because true crime has become a gigantic popular thing in podcasting, television, all of the above, right? And Netflix has this Jeffrey Dahmer movie out there as well. And there's a lot of backlash about it because people feel like you're sort of glorifying these murderers, but at the same time, there's trauma being brought up again for the people's families who were victims of these murders, right? And we're sort of being desensitized to the idea that there are real victims on the side of these stories that are entertaining us, right? And it's a slippery slope. I'm curious for you, kind of in that context, what do you kind of think about this idea of the true crime genre and these points that are being brought up?
But is he like related to Jeff Dahmer? Is he like some like Bobby Dahmer? Like, I'm curious, bro. It's like it's a racial motivation to go on a rampage to kill like these our brothers and sisters out in, you say, California, right?
Yeah,
California, and it's like, what's the reason? I just want to know this person's motive. I want to know what kind of person he is. Are we talking a racial motive?
Right.
Or are we talking like a mentally incapacitated motive, bro? Does he have issues? Like, I want to know why this happens. And then when people have these types of conversations about like the type of killer he is, whether it's racially motivated, whether he's like mentally ill, whatever it is, it's just going to keep going in a circle, bro. Look at all the school shootings that has happened throughout this past several years. Yeah, it's always a debate about whether it was racial, about whether it was mental, about whether it was classes, and they just keep going in a circle. And the problem with these types of conversations that we have, bro, is that once everybody starts saying, no, it's this, no, it's that, no, it's this, no, it's that, you're going in a circle. Right. And then at some point, everybody loses interest. And then nothing gets done. And nothing gets resolved, you know? Yeah. Only the court has the final say. And that's that, without any solid proof of what the cause of motive was. And for these people who got killed, will they ever truly get the justice they deserve? You know? Right. It brings into perspective what's going to happen, you know? Is he going to get treated? Is he going to get the same repercussions? The killer, is he going to get the same repercussions as a person of color? Yeah. I find that highly unlikely, you know? But these are the type of conversations that trigger me in a sense where, why is it happening again? Why? I just want to know why, you know? That's where I come from. Right.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think there's it's scary as a person of color to ever be able to trust the police to want to truly find justice when something happens to us, right? I think that's the first and foremost thing. But yeah, I mean, I think you would hope that this would be treated as a hate crime, you know, when in fact he does get locked up. I mean, because we saw it in that Walmart in Texas where that was a person purposely looking for Latinos to murder when they did that mass shooting. But yeah, I mean,
New York. Upstate New York. What was it, like Buffalo?
Yeah, they were targeting black people. Yeah, they were looking for black people specifically. He was looking for black people to kill. You know, so I mean, I think that's a great point. You know, this is not maybe a mass shooting where you had one gigantic event, but yeah, I think the fact that now you have somebody out there purposely targeting Latino people just continues to speak to the same narrative and idea that we have, that like these racist people are being super emboldened to take their own anger into their own hands, you know, sadly.
Yeah, bro. And like, I'll bring in another perspective. It's the ideology. Let's say the motive is race. Right. There are some people that will defend the serial killer because of his ideologies, bro. Yeah. Look at the situation with Kyle Rittenhouse. That man is glorified in many cases.
Yeah, he's a celebrity.
Of what he did. And it goes cross borders. There's a whole museum or a house for Kyle Rittenhouse in his name, glorifying him in Argentina, bro. Yeah. I'm like, what is going on, bro?
It's a weird kind of like fucking Twilight Zone that we live in right now, where someone like Kyle Rittenhouse is a celebrity, where people are lining up. There was a video recently of people lining up to take pictures with him. You know, he's getting paid as a public speaker in like these Republican conferences, bro. It's fucking, it is a Twilight Zone. But real quick though, I want to get your opinion though on like the glorification of outside of race, the glorification of these serial killers, right? Like the Jeffrey Dahmer Netflix thing. What do you think? Are we becoming too obsessed and desensitized to the idea of murder, and we're forgetting there are real victims behind it?
My thing is that man, just hear me out.
Okay, go ahead.
I've seen it. I'm scared. I'm scared because this is really being glorified. But I'm seeing a lot more women always geared and interested in these types of cases. Like, it seems like a woman just knows how these murder cases turn out. And I'm always like, bro, like, why are these women so invested in it, bro? They love this shit. And I'm just like, bro, like, are you trying to, like, I'm curious for my future partner. Like, what do you like? What are your interests?
Right.
What, like, I want to know, because if they say, I like serial killer shows, I'd be like, I gotta go. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing. In a lighter story, I just wanted to bring that because that is the thing that I've seen a lot more women like. But in terms of the glorification of it, I just feel like I'm so desensitized in so many ways when it comes to these types of murderers, these types of killers that are just like, they're being talked about on a main platform like Netflix, you know?
Yeah.
And then they're talked about all over social media. Can we just rewind the clock back to like, 15, 20 years ago when Teen Mom was like the most popular thing on television, bro?
Right.
I just want to let you know that who is in charge of putting these types of like themes, TV shows, murder cases on the main screen? Like, we need to have a serious conversation with who's in charge,
right? And
why are they so obsessed? And why do they think that these people are gonna love these types of cases? Which, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that love these cases. There are people that love Teen Mom. There's a lot of people that love Jeffrey Dahmer, you know. And I'm just like at the point where, okay, we can talk about it, but damn, we don't gotta go through a whole production like to talk about like this to make it look like some people are gonna look at him as the hero, some people are gonna look at him as the villain. I don't, you know, like that's my perspective. It's like at this point, it seems that humanity just loves drama. They love this type of they're sick. I mean, a lot of people are sick, you know. They fantasize this type of life, you know. But it seems that whoever's in charge are just, in his or her eyes, are just giving the people what they want, you know?
That is the sad thing, because you wonder, like, all right, well, why is all this like become the new show that we see on television? It's because it fucking sells. People watch it, right? Like that's the truth. We you know, the news, that's why they lead with like the goriest stories at the beginning to get you hooked, right? And that's a part of the culture, right? And it's sad because I think it speaks to a bit of like a demented aspect of our society, right? And our love of pain and trauma and hurt, and how we normalize it. And maybe that's why we have a bit of this sort of lack of empathy towards one another, right? And seeing each other as human beings because of stuff like that. And to your point, I do love those memes where it's like a girl, they're talking about like, you know, watches a serial killer show right before bed and then sleeps no problem through the night.
They sleep with them with no fucking problem. I'm like, are you good? Like, I have questions, man.
That's hilarious. All right, so we talked about, man, some of these heavy topics from this last week. I want to celebrate somebody from our community who is getting his flowers in our Mi Gente segment. But first, let's take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. Mi Gente. Okay, so for our Mi Gente segment, man, I wanna celebrate a man that I know you have been, campaigning for, championing. You were excited about his last tour and trying to catch him in Puerto Rico. I'm talking about the big boss, Daddy Yankee, of course. And this is pretty dope, where he's actually getting honored in Chile, right? And he's in Santiago, Chile. He's having a life-size statue put up to honor his epic music career, right? And Spotify actually unveiled it last week, and it's just in time for his sold-out run in Santiago. Man, so Spotify explained that the statue is meant to honor Yankees, quote, immeasurable contributions to music, and would make an appearance at each of the Santiago shows that happened this last week. Man, go ahead. Let me hear it, bro. I know you're excited to read things like this.
How did you know? No. I just want to say, bro, this man is the living legend, bro. I got tickets. I finally got tickets. I'm officially gonna go see him in Puerto Rico. His last shows in at the stadium in San Juan. So I'm ready for that, bro. They'll be ready for that. But I'm just so happy that it's come full circle. Yeah. He started this movement only for many generations after him to live up to the reggaeton legacy, you know, and it's finally happened. I saw the statue being posted on Twitter and on Instagram too, and it makes me happy. I see my idol getting getting his money's worth and getting the recognition he's deserved for such a long time, because he pushed this genre. He pushed it. I was the only diehard Puerto Rican kid. It was me and my Mexican homies. We were like this in an all-white school listening to reggaeton. And they'll be like, yo, I don't like this. All the non-Latinos were like, there were other Latinos too, but they were more like Argentinian Latinos, you know. They were like, oh, I don't like that music, you know what I'm saying? But now it's like you cannot not talk about it, bro. Right. We are everywhere. We have me and my Mexican homies. We're like this. We've been there since day one, supporting artists like Daddy Yankee, Nicky Jam, you know, Plan B. We've been there, bro. And it's finally come full circle, and I'm so happy. It makes me so happy, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, the reality is Bad Bunny, a Latin artist, is the biggest artist in the world. But in order for him to get to that place, you needed somebody like Daddy Yankee to begin to break that wall down, right? You know, he had Gasolina, which, you know, never reached the heights of Bad Bunny, you know, in commercial success. But that was what opened the door for people to maybe have more of an open mind to a Spanish-speaking song, right? That they didn't necessarily understand the words, but just understood the vibe of it and couldn't deny that it was an incredible piece of music, right? And man, to see him honored is always beautiful. I think especially seeing it happen throughout the Latin diaspora is a beautiful thing, right? I think the idea of unity, you know, Daddy Yankee is not from Chile, but to see them honor him and recognize the contributions that he has made on behalf of Latinos everywhere, I think is also what makes this such a beautiful moment.
Absolutely. I 110% agree, bro. It started when he first created the word reggaeton. When it first came from his mouth back in the 1990s in Playero 34. You listen to the track Playero 34, Daddy Yankee. He was the first to create that song, the word reggaeton. It was because of him. Many other artists started using it, and that's what cultivated the genre reggaeton, which is why he is the father of this genre. And the fact that reggaeton is being heard not throughout just Latin America and USA. We're talking Europe and Africa as well. There was a story I read a couple weeks ago that there were people in Venice, Italy. They took a trip out to Venice, Italy, and they started listening to the Italian music, and they said, oh, yo, can I get the aux? I would love to play this music, you know? And then they started playing Bad Bunny at the party they was at, and then more people from the outside started making their way to the inside because of them hearing the reggaeton that Bad Bunny is producing, you know? So we've come so far. We've broken barriers, and it's just finally happening that the man is going to hang up his gloves, bro. The man, Daddy Yankee, Raymond Ayala is hanging it up, bro. The pioneer of reggaeton is coming to an end. And I'm so excited, bro. I'm so excited. I'm so happy for him.
No, that's beautiful, bro. I mean, listen, I want to also touch on, you know, all that you're working on as well, because I know you're doing a bunch of different work around the island. I mean, what have you been kind of getting into? Kind of what has been your focus? I know obviously a lot of it's probably centered around hurricane repairs and things like that. Kind of what's been going on for you, and what kind of things are you trying to push people to?
I'm trying to get more folks to get involved with the nonprofit that I'm a brand ambassador for. It's a nonprofit called Mi Patria Puerto Rico. These people have been just nonstop every day doing work, whether it's in Isabela, Rincon, Abadia, Salinas. They will go wherever. It does not matter. They literally just delivered a truck full of ice for the people in Las Marias just to have ice, bro. We're talking ice, bro. How do you ship ice? These people did it. And just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to everybody who has donated, because we have reached monumental achievements in terms of buying many, many, many mattresses to give to people that lost their homes and lost their mattresses out to the communities of Añasco. And it's just been never ending, bro. We're going to keep going. And it makes me so happy that, you know, a lot more from the States, a lot more Puerto Ricans from the States and non-Puerto Ricans that have gotten involved from the States as well have been contributing to the community out here in Puerto Rico, you know, and the fruit of the labor has just been never ending. And I'm so happy that it's only up from here, you know?
That's beautiful. But where can people check out the nonprofit if they want to donate?
So you can check it out on Instagram and on TikTok at mi patria point pr. That's mi patria point pr.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's important because donating to the grassroots organizations, it gets the money and then the resources there quicker to the people that need them. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
when you donate to like FEMA and all that kind of stuff, you don't really know where your money's going. It could end up in a warehouse somewhere that never gets open for, right? Sadly.
Not that that's happened to us before.
Right. So I always suggest, and when I donate, I always try to send it to a grassroots organization that is literally in touch with the community and knows specifically who is in need the most and gets it to those people. So that's really important.
Nah, word. And, I might toot my own horn a little bit, but
go ahead.
Because of the work that I've been doing, bro, and like the interviews that I've been going through, your boy is finally like this morning, I got verified on Instagram. Your boy is officially verified on social media too. So now businesses and outside, people from the outside that want to help, they'll know I'm a serious and direct source because of what I've been doing on social media. So it's finally like come full circle where I'm just like, all right, I'm verified, baby. Time to get to work,
That's beautiful, my bro. I love that. Where can people follow you to keep up with all that you're doing?
They can definitely follow me on Instagram. They can follow me at Huertas Dean PR. All right, or they can follow me on TikTok at Dean Huertas. Definitely check it out. I'm always informing everything that Mi Patria is doing. I'm always informing about everything Puerto Rico related and everything Latino based related as well. And much love and support to everybody that's been grinding with me since day one. And to you, Dramos. I've been a fan of you since I first met you, bro.
I appreciate you, my dude. We'll definitely, when I'm in Puerto Rico, in a couple months, we'll knock back a couple medallas for sure.
That's what I'm talking about. I want that.
Yes, my bro. I appreciate you as always.
Likewise. Thank you, man.
Man, big shout out to my guy Dean Huertas for hopping on the show today. Man, it's crazy to see his growth and dedication to his work. I mean, when I first met him, it was on Instagram, and he just randomly started following me and was, I think, just moving to Puerto Rico, and before any of the TikTok stuff started going off for him, and he was just a dude who was passionate about helping the island of Puerto Rico and man, getting information out there. And it's crazy to see how he just blew up with his social media and all that he's beginning to build out there. So man, big shout out to Dean, definitely an inspiration. And man, with that said, I want to hear from y'all. Let's get your take on a question that has to do with one of the topics that I covered with Dean. We'll do that in our Ask a Gringo segment.
Ask a Gringo. I have a question.
All right, so for today's question, again, at DJ Dramos, anybody new here, I pose these questions on Instagram for each and every episode. I want to get y'all to chime in. I mean, your voice is just as important as mine is on this show. So this question that I posed today was based around the kind of conversation that we got into about Netflix and this Jeffrey Dahmer show that has gotten a lot of backlash and a lot of people criticizing sort of this glorification that we're seeing of violence and murder and serial killers in this instance. And I mean, man, the true crime genre is gigantic when it comes to podcasting or television, and everybody seems to be obsessed with it. I mean, shit, I'll be real with you, I'm super into it. But I think there is a real question to be posed about how healthy it is for us to kind of become desensitized and just entertained by violence. And at the same time, somebody posed an argument recently, I think it was on a podcast or something I was watching or listening to, and they were talking about how many of the families of these victims, are re-traumatized whenever a lot of these things, become TV shows or movies or things like that. And it was something that I didn't really think about, and it's just, I don't know, I feel a little guilty supporting something that is re-traumatizing people out there, But yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's an interesting conversation to be had. So I want to get y'all's take on that. So I simply posed the question, are we too obsessed with violence / true crime as a society? Why or why not? And I made sure I mentioned kind of based off of this whole Jeffrey Dahmer movie or show, whatever it is. Now, let's see, I'm going to read a couple here. At Maritza M04 says, yes, I don't know why America is in love with serial killers. It's creepy. And it is creepy. I think that's a great kind of word for it. You know, I think that it's so, man, the idea about, like, I mentioned this about the news, like the idea that they lead with like the most violent stories on the news because they know that's what's going to hook us in, you know. And it's not anything new. I think you think about like the times of like the Romans, like they had a Colosseum where people would like fight to the death essentially, right? And that was their entertainment. You think about sports like boxing, you know. So we've always loved this idea of violence, you know. I just think it begins to kind of creep up on a weird fine line when it's about murder and true crimes, you know, where there were victims and where there still are, you know, victims' families surviving and having to rewatch these things as they become oddly glorified. I think that's when you kind of have a fine line. But I'll read a couple more. Let me see. This one's anonymous, so they said, yes, part of me thinks I'm learning how to protect myself as I watch. Now this is super interesting. I definitely can kind of see that. I think you know, man, it's also scary because you think about, we live in a society where people feel like they have to learn how to handle these situations. But I totally get it. I think a part of us always thinks that because we watch so many of these shows, we are like experts on how to handle these sort of situations. God forbid it ever happened to us or a loved one. And I think, again, that kind of speaks to the society that we have, that people feel like they need to prepare for, God forbid, these horrible, horrific situations possibly coming into their life. I think that's another commentary of the current state of the world and our society, unfortunately. And last one I'll read from @Nicolosa_Vega. She says, as an avid true crime podcast listener, I can say that I listen because it's intriguing. As a woman, it's important to be aware of these dangers and know that it's okay to quote-unquote fuck politeness and listen to your instinct. Maybe it's my anxiety, but I feel the more I know, the better prepared I can be. What's insensitive is all the people on TikTok sympathizing with Jeffrey Dahmer. So disturbing. And yeah, I think that's another good point, and it piggybacks off of the previous comment. And obviously, it seems like this is a sort of normal mindset for women, unfortunately, because they feel the need to have to protect themselves. And I actually listened to a recent there's Crime Junkies podcast, and they had one about this woman who was like meeting a like Tinder date, and the guy never showed up, but like some other dude was there at the bar, and like luckily the bartender kind of saved her and told her that like this guy's always at the bar, always like hitting on a woman who was getting stood up from a date, and there's just some sort of creepy thing going on. And it was eye-opening for me, and it was just kind of one of those things where I was like, man, you know, women have to protect themselves, and as somebody who hopes to have children one day and all these things, it was like great to be informed on kind of some of the schemes that are possibly happening out there that put people in danger. So if I felt it to be educational at that point, I can only imagine as a woman who feels the need to protect themselves, you know, I definitely see that. But I think to your point, these sort of fandom and glorification that comes from these killers, I think you're right. That is sort of the sort of line that ends up getting crossed, right? I think when you tell these stories, and maybe the purpose of it is to, you know, get these stories out there to educate people, you know, to maybe even just sort of, I don't want to say celebrate the life of the victims, but to make sure they're not forgotten. Like, I understand that. But yeah, I think people doing the Jeffrey Dahmer memes, as much as I know people are just trying to have fun, it's the internet, I think that's when we begin to kind of forget the human side of it, that this is a person who took the life of many people and left families grieving for no real reason, you know? And I think that's what we kind of have to be mindful of. There's also the same kind of conversation when you had Zac Efron playing Ted Bundy, and women were kind of talking about, or people in general were talking about, like, how attractive they found him, and like making jokes that they want Ted Bundy to kidnap them, type of thing, right? And again, I understand that it's all in fun, and I'm not trying to be somebody who's like, you know, say, oh, we can't joke about anything. I get it. I understand, like, it's not meant to be serious. It's not that deep for the people making these jokes. But I think, again, we begin to forget there are real lives affected by these stories. And our jokes, be it as innocent as they may be, it's just the internet. I think spits on a little bit of that and the trauma that many people, are having as a result of the original incident, but then also it's just popping up on TV and being something everybody's like celebrating and in love with. I think it's just a weird kind of fine line. Now, listen, I don't have the answer for you. Like I said, I'm entertained by these things as well, and I mean, maybe for me as a kid, I know I definitely wanted to work in forensics at one point, so it's been something I've been super into as a kid, reading about books, that talk about true crime. I wanted to be a criminal psychologist at one point, so these things are super fascinating to me, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't entertained by the stories, so I say all this as somebody who participates in it as well, and yeah, I think it's a fine line of not glorifying it and not making it, something fun, as far as the murders that happen. I think maybe telling the real stories. I haven't seen the Jeffrey Dahmer one, but maybe telling the stories as they are and not glorifying these people to be something that they're not, or someone that we can have some sort of empathy for when they did these horrendous acts. I don't know, just an interesting conversation to have, and I think interesting sort of reference as far as like where we are as a society. I don't know, just these types of conversations. I think there's no right or wrong answer. I guess it's just an observation about the current world that we live in, I guess. Man, but with that said, thank y'all so much for participating at DJ Dramos on Instagram. I post these for each and every episode, like I said. And man, without further ado, let's kind of tie everything we talked about today in a neat little bow in a segment we call Conclusion Stew.
Time for Conclusion Stew.
So just to kind of quickly recap a few of the things that we talked about, you had Biden going to Puerto Rico, and there's a lot of criticism that he didn't visit much of the island. He spent barely any time there, and I think that's all valid. I think that in comparison to the previous administration, he's saying all the right things. Again, like Dean said, money was supposed to have been released for Maria that, people seem to have lost track of. So the promise of Biden saying that money is going to be sent and allocated for the people, still feels a bit empty to a degree, because we're going to be weary from the last time, right? But I think overall, what clouds this whole conversation, and I think what makes it difficult and, I don't know, ironic in a weird way, is the idea that, regardless of how good or bad Biden is doing as far as, his support of the people of Puerto Rico in these dire circumstances, it's the fact that the U.S. is still, modern day colonizer of the island of Puerto Rico, right? And we can't escape that conversation. And that's a very complex one. I've talked about on the show a bit. One we'll continue to kind of cover as more and more opinions continue to kind of happen, and we have different people, with different points of view. But, I think that a lot of whatever is going to happen as far as the U.S. supporting, the idea of colonization is still in the air. And I think the fact that, we had to wait for the president to waive the Jones Act in order for a foreign ship to deliver fuel in the form of aid, I think tells you everything you need to know, right? That anybody who says we are a self-serving government and, we act on our own and on the island of Puerto Rico, and while that's true in bits and pieces, everything you need to know is said in that moment where a foreign ship is coming to deliver fuel as a means of aid to people who are in dire circumstances, and they're not able to deliver that until they get the okay from the United States of America. And that tells you 100% who is in control and the status of the island, and that they do not hold their own fate in their own hands, and that's a problem. Now, moving on to the two brothers who were arrested in the shooting of two migrants in Texas, one of which was killed. I just think that this is more of like that martial law, that vigilante justice that the right seems to be okay with, that they think they have to take things into their own hands and they feel emboldened. And sadly, it's because of the leadership that they follow that makes them think that it's okay to take justice into their own hands. And as much as I have my gripes with law enforcement, there's a reason why we have the police. There's a reason why we have the rule in place that everybody is innocent until proven guilty. Everybody gets their day in court, right? There is a process towards even holding the worst criminals accountable, right? Police aren't allowed to just shoot random people because they're criminals. They have to get their day in court, right? I mean, obviously, sadly that happens, but as the laws state and as the rules are, that's what our system is based upon, right? So these cowboys, basically, and I think Dean made a great kind of reference talking about this, very reminiscent of the days of cowboys and Native Americans, right? Like they think that they can just go around and enforce whatever they feel is necessary. And again, we saw it with the horrendous death of Ahmaud Arbery, and luckily those men are rotting in jail, but it just kind of shows you the mindset of these people, and it's a really dangerous time to be living in, especially if you are a person of color, if you are an immigrant, and you have these people who believe that we don't belong here in this country and then feel emboldened to take justice into their own hands, or justice as they see fit, I should say. So just scary times and more, of a sad reflection of the current state of our country, where this sadly is kind of a normal thing. And we talked about kind of serial killers a bunch today on the show. I mean, you have this person in Stockton, California. I suggest you look it up. There is a video of the person of interest. It's the back of them, but you can see them kind of walking, and it's kind of like a unique walk that somebody might have if it's somebody if you're from the area or know people in the area, definitely find that video online. Maybe you can help the police catch them. But the fact that they're targeting men, specifically Latino men, is again another example of it not being safe for us here in this country. And I guess when this person is caught, it'll be interesting to kind of really see what their motives were. And then on the topic of serial killers in general, like the obsession that we kind of have as a society with violence and murder and blood, guts, and gore and all that kind of stuff. Man, it's a fine line, of we're all guilty of looking at it for entertainment to a degree. But again, there's real people out there who are suffering through the emotions from the things that we are finding as entertainment. And I'm not passing judgment. Again, I'm somebody who watches and enjoys these true crime type of things, But yeah, I think like one of my listeners said, Nicolosa, I think the fine line is when we begin to celebrate these murderers and also kind of make them into like this meme internet culture that sort of lessens the disgusting human beings that they are and the victims and broken families that they left behind as a result. And then last thing on some positivity, man, I think it's beautiful to see Daddy Yankee getting honored, getting his flowers, somebody who has done so much for not only Latin music but Latin culture, bringing it to the forefront, opening the door for people like Bad Bunny to be able to run through, and to see it happening in Chile, which is obviously not where Daddy Yankee is from, I think is a beautiful sign of unity amongst the Latin diaspora, which is amazing. And last kind of honorable mention, because I know it just passed. You had Bad Bunny getting his own day in Los Angeles, right? National Bad Bunny Day, October 1st. So just incredible, to see our people, our community just getting this recognition. And I don't want to over celebrate and make it seem as if everything is equal and there's not more work to be done, because I think that things like this should be the norm. But we also have to give people their flowers that they very much well deserve, in moments like this one. So big shout out to all those guys doing the thing, and everybody from our community who's out there putting on in the same way that they have, and just carrying on that torch, that baton for all of us. I think it's incredible. And big shout out to Dean Huertas for doing that as well, with his social media platform, always informing people, always speaking about real issues, as well as having some fun. I just think an amazing representative for our community, and you love to see people like that winning and getting that kind of following and having a home for others to go to kind of feel as a part of their culture, which I think is beautiful. Now with that said, thank y'all so much for listening to today's episode. At DJ Dramos on them social medias, if you want to hit me up, have any questions, suggestions, I'm always open to that kind of stuff. Any feedback, always appreciated. Again, wherever you're listening, if you haven't yet, I would greatly appreciate you leaving a review, giving us 5 stars if you feel so inclined. I appreciate you. Dramos.com for merch. We got my logo hat. We got the Gringo hats, some pins to represent your country. So some cool stuff over there. And I'm working on a few more things that I'll keep y'all tuned in on, man. But that's it. I'll catch y'all on Tuesday for a brand new episode. Until then, have an amazing weekend, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.